Wow, what a pleasure it is once again to look out at a room like this and see so many friends, so many colleagues, so many people who are making such a difference for this country. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for doing everything that you do every day. I am Caroline Fredrickson. I'm the president of this wonderful organization, the American Constitution Society for Law and Policy. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you, many of you who have come to ACS conventions year after year, to welcome you again to our 2015 convention. So, this is a night when many of you could be off doing other things. For some of you, you might be at conferences, and some of you might be putting a few more hours in at the law firm. Some of you might be writing law review articles. And some of you, many of you, perhaps might be studying for the bar. I'm not trying to make you feel anxious. This is a good excuse not to study for the bar. You'll actually learn more here than you will in any bar review course. But I really want to thank you for being here, because your being here speaks to your priorities and our shared priorities. Fighting for equal and attainable justice, LGBT equality, equal pay and benefits for women, and the idea that the law should be used as a force for good to better the lives of all people. And I want to thank all of you for your vision and your support and your commitment to advancing the progressive values that are found in our Constitution. We are in for a wonderful evening together, and I'm certain that you and I will leave this convention with more knowledge, more friends, and more passion to do the important work our legal system and this country need done so desperately. And please help us when you go back home. Spread the word about ACS and our collective mission. And I encourage you to share your excitement here right now by tweeting about this event using hashtag ACS15. ACS15, that is an amazing number because that really marks how old we are now as an organization. So thank you again to all of you who helped bring us here today. The work that we do and the work that you do is important now as it's ever been. As we meet here in the nation's capital, just an hour away in Baltimore, police officers have been indicted. And it's not just in Baltimore. We've seen too many incidents across the country in Ferguson, New York, and North Charleston, to name a few. These high-profile incidents are a clarion call for us to work towards racial equality and democratic inclusion. Those issues and the fight go on. Voting rights are under siege. 50 years after the Voting Rights Act, racial minorities, particularly those with lower incomes, are denied access to the ballot box by people claiming to be fighting voter fraud and protecting the integrity of elections. But we know that there is no integrity in an election that denies people the right to vote. And that is another reason we continue our fight, and it's another reason I know so many of you are here. Also, a group that we need to work to support are the workers who make up the backbone of our economy. Those workers are struggling to get by while corporations make record profits. We know that unions make for a stronger and better workforce, and we must work to support them. More importantly, we must practice what we preach. So I hope you will all join me now in thanking the wonderful staff here at the Capitol Hilton, our host hotel for the 5th straight year. And particularly want to thank those unions who are here: Unite Here, Local 25, Local 99 of the International Union of Operating Engineers, and Local 51 of the Painters and Allied Trades, District Council number 51. So thank you all so much. ACS is honored to bring together the leaders and future leaders of the progressive legal movement. We are a network and that is what makes us strong. We cannot do the work we do without you, and we need you to continue the work you do to continue fighting for our Constitution, because we are the people, and we will not let the conservative, activist legal movement take us back in time. And I know you join me in that promise and in this critical fight. So I want to take a minute to thank the people and the organizations whose extra efforts made this evening and this convention a reality. First, our wonderful, wonderful convention co-hosts. Our honorary host committee. The ACS Board of Directors, wonderful group of people who guide us and inspire us. And in particular, I would like to thank our wonderful, wonderful board chair, David Brodsky. We are so grateful for your leadership. Trying to figure out please. And of course, I can't forget the wonderful ACS staff with whom I have the privilege to work every day, who have done everything they can and worked tirelessly to make this seem like a seamless event. There's been a lot of work that has gone on to put this together. And certainly, but not least, I want to thank our sponsors who have supported us in this endeavor. Our underwriters, Berger and Montag, Google, Grant and Eisenhofer, Kellogg, Huber, Hansen, Todd, Evans, and Fiegel, PLLC, Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein, Microsoft, the Service Employees International Union, Sussman, Godfrey, and Wilmer Hale. And our partners, Boyce, Schiller, and Flexner, Facebook, Latham and Watkins, Paul Weiss, Perkins Coie, and Rust Consulting, Kinsella Media. And our benefactors, AFSCME, Brodsky ADR LLC, Covington, Cravath, Swain and Moore, Jenner and Block, Oric, Sidley Austin, Skadden Arps, Slate, Meager and Flom, and Verizon. So please join me in showing our enormous appreciation for all of these generous sponsors. And now we are very proud to present the 7th annual ACS David Carliner Public Interest Award. This award recognizes outstanding public interest lawyers whose work best exemplifies its namesake's legacy of fearless, uncompromising, and creative advocacy on behalf of marginalized people. The winner receives a $10,000 prize. And this year, the award has expanded to include a grant of $2,500 to the recipient's organization. This year's finalist will also receive $2,500. The award was established in memory of one of the great public interest lawyers of the 20th century, David Carliner, who was a true champion of justice, both in his native Washington, D.C., and on the national stage. David Carliner was a tireless, innovative litigator who also played a leading role in building institutions devoted to protecting civil and human rights and combating injustice on a systemic basis. A pioneering immigration lawyer, an ardent foe of Jim Crow laws, and a leading champion of full political rights for citizens of the District of Columbia, he also was the founding chair of the American Civil Liberties Union National Capital Area and the International Human Rights Law Group, which is now Global Rights. ACS could not be more honored than to have the opportunity to bestow an award bearing David Carliner's name. And the volume and quality of the applications we received was truly inspiring. The unenviable task of selecting just one winner and one finalist fell to a distinguished panel of judges. Nan Aaron, Tomiko Brown-Nagin, Judge William Fletcher, Judge Thomas Bergenthal, Deborah Carliner, and Jacob Remus, who discharged their responsibilities admirably. The American Constitution Society is honored to partner with the Carliner family in presenting this award, which recognizes lawyers who have devoted their careers to the values that all ACS members share. I would like to thank the Carliner family for being such a pleasure to work with in conceiving and launching this wonderful initiative. It would be hard for anyone who has come to know them to believe that a passion for justice is anything other than an inherited trait. Here to present the ACS David Carliner Award is Sarah Remus, the granddaughter of David Carliner.
David Carliner would have been angry, though perhaps not surprised, to read the news this year. Police killing unarmed black men, women, and children, children dying after spending time in solitary confinement during pretrial confinement, and no end to the mass incarceration that has disrupted so many lives and families. He would have been gratified then to see that so many talented, creative, and strong lawyers are doing their best to end this racist and counterproductive state of affairs. The ACS David Carliner Public Interest Award is pleased to recognize 2 lawyers working to end mass incarceration. The finalist for the David Carliner Public Interest Award is Daryl Atkinson, senior attorney at the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. He works to minimize the long-term consequences of involvement with the criminal justice system and to organize advocates across the southern United States to discuss needed policy changes to reduce mass incarceration. As a victim himself of racially motivated minimum sentencing laws for nonviolent drug offenses, he brings a powerful perspective to his work. Please join me in congratulating Daryl. And the winner of the David Carliner Public Interest Award is Zachary Norris, Executive Director of the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights. Zach has dedicated his career toward ending mass incarceration and the burden such incarceration places on individuals and their families. David Carliner began his career as an organizer, and so he would have been particularly proud of the fact that Zachary's career has been devoted to organizing, the first time the David Carliner Award has been given to a non-litigator. Zach's first role at the Ella Baker Center was as an organizer, where he advocated for and organized families of incarcerated youth. After several years, he led the Books Not Bars campaign, which successfully blocked the building of a proposed super jail for juveniles in Alameda County, California. He headed the statewide campaign against Proposition 6, which would have lengthened juvenile prison sentences and increased prison spending. Under the auspices of a Soros Fellowship, Zach founded and directed Justice for Families, an alliance of family-driven organizations working to reduce youth incarceration. He completed a study of the impacts of juvenile justice systems on families of court-involved youth that was instrumental in advocating for changes in the treatment of such children. He returned to the Ella Baker Center as executive director, where he has continued and expanded his dedication to juveniles and their families caught in the criminal justice system. He has led the charge to advocate for increased public money and resources on building communities and families, not by destroying them through harsh punishments and unnecessary criminal justice involvement. He has researched the economic impacts of mass incarceration, organized town hall meetings across California to support alternatives to incarceration and investment in job growth, and advocated for policy changes in California, such as reducing juvenile solitary confinement and eliminating sentencing disparities between crack and powder cocaine offenses. In doing this work, he is successful because he uses not just the traditional advocacy tools of a lawyer, but because he also works with families to give them voices and empower them to advocate on their own behalf. Around the country, children of color are dying because of lack of investment in their schools and communities and inadequate economic opportunities for their families and themselves. They are dying because our laws are too quick to put them in jail, to languish there without access to mental health care or education. Zachary Norris has devoted his career to changing this state's priorities to give these kids greater and fair opportunities. For this reason, we are thrilled to award him the David Carliner Public Interest Award.
Thank you all. It is an honor and a privilege to be here. I would like to thank the Carliner family for continuing to build upon the legacy of David Carliner. I would like to thank Caroline Fredrickson and the American Constitution Society as a whole for all of the amazing work you do on behalf of people across this country. And I know that you may be thinking, looking at me, since when did they give awards to law school students? I did, in fact, graduate law school in 2003 and took a different path, as has been noted. And so I want to accept this award on behalf of families of incarcerated youth across California. I want to accept it on their behalf because they believed in structural change and the possibility of it when many did not. I sat around a table much like the ones that you're sitting at, and along with a handful of mothers and grandmothers, we decided that we wanted to close California Youth Authority youth prisons. Mothers like Joyce Cook said, "It is inhumane that my son is spending 23 hours a day on isolation for weeks and months on end." We knew that 3 out of 4 young people were being rearrested within 3 years of release. And we knew that the state of California was spending $150,000 per year per young person for this failed system. So we did what good organizers do. We got some t-shirts. Because you can't do good organizing without good t-shirts. On the front, they said, "Close CYA prisons, close California Youth Authority prisons." On the back, they said, "Open youth opportunities." We didn't get a good reception. When we went to the Capitol, the legislators tried to laugh us out of the Capitol. They said we never closed not a single youth prison, but we kept growing our numbers. We kept holding protests, rallies, and vigils for young people who lost their lives inside of these institutions. We worked with judges who said, "I'm no longer going to send young people to that system. I'm going to invest and use local alternatives." We worked with litigators who challenged abusive conditions inside of those youth prisons. And we eventually worked with legislators who heard that call and passed legislation to reduce the number of young people being sent inside the system. Over an 8-year campaign, we closed not 1, but 5 youth prisons across the state of California. We saw no decrease in public safety, and in fact, were able to win investment in local alternatives to that youth prison system. A lot of times when you go out and stand in front of a group of people and talk about closing prisons, people assume that you don't care about public safety. And if you had asked me more than 5 years ago, maybe there might have been some truth to that. But 5 years ago, my whole world changed. My daughter was born, and I held her in my arms, and she wasn't but this big. And I'm not a big person, but she fit across my chest. And her skin was too big for her bones, and it sort of bunched up at her knees and her elbows. And I knew what it meant to desire protection and safety for her. So I want her and her younger sister to be safe when they're at home. And our home has been broken into two times in the last 9 months. I want her to be safe when she's going to school this fall as a kindergartner. And I think of Jaisha Scott, a 5-year-old arrested in a Florida kindergarten classroom for having a temper tantrum. I shudder to think about getting that call from the Oakland Public School District. We have gone way off the deep end in terms of an arrest first, incarcerate first, and yes, shoot first mentality when it comes to our criminal justice system. The result has been the largest prison building boom in human history and some 5 million people pushed under the poverty line. So when President Fredrickson talked about the issues that we all face, those issues are connected. And that's why we work to advance a truth and reinvestment agenda, a books not bars, jobs not jails, health care not handcuffs agenda. And we look forward to working with you all in Detroit, in New Orleans, and in Ohio to advance initiatives as we launch a report that will really set the groundwork for our truth and reinvestment agenda that will finally help to reckon a long history of racial injustice in this country and reinvest resources in communities hardest hit by mass incarceration. Thank you. In closing, I ask that you all take seriously the spirit and legacy of David Carliner, who worked to advance not just civil rights, but human rights. We have a racial discrimination standard that is no standard at all in this country. It is based on intent rather than on impact. The United Nations standard is based on impact. If it's good enough for the United Nations, it should be good enough for the United States. And I know that that's a long road to hoe, but we can do it step by step. I ask that you get your Fitbit or your Stairmaster or your step tracker or whatever you use and take that journey with us. We can do it together. We can usher in a country that is more prosperous, safe, and just. Thank you.